August. The Battle of the Somme has settled into a predictable intensity. Every day, the two opposing armies clash over some disputed point on the map that seems all-important to those giving the orders, but is merely a tiny blip of a place on any larger map of France or of Europe. The armies wake up at an ungodly early hour, with British machine gunners firing at the German lines during sunrise, and the German machine gunners returning the favor at sunset. Then, during the day, the two forces probe for weaknesses in the other side's lines before fighting it out for a few hours and then repairing the damage or consolidating their gains during the night. 20,000 British soldiers died on the first morning of the Battle of the Somme, and yet the battle still rages on 6 weeks later. Successes are measured in hundreds of yards of captured territory, with acceptable casualty figures measured in the thousands of human beings. Conquests consist of tiny hamlets with populations smaller than the typical third-class carriage of a train. Soldiers speak of places like Contalmaison, Fiepval, or Auvillers as though they are Constantinople, Rome, or Richmond. The little-known French villages themselves, meanwhile, are being relentlessly reduced to rubble, as is everything around them. The only landmarks are the trench systems, a network of lifelines with names like Piccadilly Circus, Oxford Street, and the Dorsetshire Barricade. You're back in the line for the first time in 2 weeks. In your time away from the trenches, you simply try to repair your body and mind. After all, you knew from experience that if you were healthy enough, you'd be back here as soon as the army needed more warm bodies. The ones in the line get too cold too quickly, so to speak, for the rest of you to catch much of a break. The trenches are more cramped, more haphazard, and more unpleasant each time you return to them. The army has been slowly advancing into enemy territory. That means the trenches these days are more likely to be rough-hewn affairs rather than the finely polished and dry defensive structures from the offensive's first day. Some sections, like the ones you're in, are actually converted German reserve trenches, and that means they're full of dugouts. The Germans are known dugout builders. Soon after settling in your assigned post, you hear a raucous cheer up from a nearby dugout. Do you want to see what's going on or stay at your post? I'm gonna go check it out. You rush over to see what the fuss is about, arriving just as a beaming young private emerges from the doorway. He's waving a few bits of paper in his hand and looks exactly as though his horse just came in. "Mackworth there," he says, referring to a fellow soldier still inside, "just won the Derby, and I got myself free bob thanks to him," he adds, telling you he's won a very impressive wager indeed. You know exactly what this happy gambler is referring to. Lice is a chronic problem at the front, and British soldiers are inveterate gamblers. Combine the two, and you get bored soldiers wagering on lice. Mackworth, the Derby winner, was able to shake more lice bugs off his clothes in 1 minute than any of the other men competing against him, and the smiling gambler here picked the proverbial winning horse. Mackworth also gets 2 bars of Life Buoy, the gambler adds, referring to a brand of particular strong soap that's known to be good at killing the endemic little vermin. I can't imagine being itch-free that long. Welcome home, you sarcastically think to yourself. Your body is going to love it here. North of Thrones Wood is another place like it, Delville Wood, where the attacks take a familiar turn. B Company is headed that way because that's where the Germans are. As long as the Germans are there, your line can't advance any farther into enemy territory, so the Germans have to be removed, by force of arms. This time, you're not going to be involved in any initial attack. Instead, you're replacing various soldiers already stationed up at the front. No massed waves going up over the top, you think. That's always a good thing. From a distance, the fighting sounds like a far-off thunderstorm. Rumbling noises and periodic cracks tell you that the artillery and machine gun fire are busy collecting their day's quota of bodies. You spare some pity for the poor devils already in the thick of it. As you move closer, the sounds become louder, of course, and also more distinct. You can hear the occasional shout, scream, and cheer. You can pick out the different weapons being used. You can also see more of the effects this fighting is having. Your mind wants to flee. There is simply no good reason to be moving towards such carnage. Your body, however, wears a soldier's uniform, and you are part of a unit that has its orders. The men around you are marching and you are too. It's something the army has made you all very good at doing, so you march onwards and into the fire. B Company arrives at the Delville Wood and, after a surprisingly difficult time finding your way through the shattered earth, eventually manages to relieve some disoriented Royal Welsh Fusiliers who have been up there the better part of a week and barely seems to know what day it is anymore. As they depart, your captain asks them which units are to either side of you along the line. "No idea, sir," one man says back, his feet still shuffling and his head still turned away. "30th Lancashire Cavalry to the left," another wary soldier offers. You know that's not right, because no such unit exists. He's just made it up. One of your lieutenants starts to get angry, but the captain just waves him off. "Let them go," he says. "They've been through hell, and they're no use to us anyway." Word also comes down that you'll have to improvise your defenses a bit, because several of your Lewis machine gunners have been recruited to the Flying Corps. Apparently, a major was just here from number 25 Squadron and pilfered your best men to perform gunner duty on his aeroplanes. As if to emphasize the point about airplanes, just then you see a lone Fokker Eindecker, a German monoplane fighter, bear down on your line. British forces have established some measure of air supremacy over the Somme battlefield, so you're surprised to see an enemy fighter get this close uncontested. The nearest lieutenant shouts, "Take cover! Tolbe coming!" The Eindecker swerves slightly to avoid some directed ground fire, then levels off and loops around into another short dive. You have no idea where you picked up the term, but as you watch the aircraft pull this maneuver, you think, "Immelmann roll." You can see the flash of the German's gun as the Eindecker pilot begins strafing your trench, and you can see plumes of dirt flying up as the bullets hit the ground. After a few seconds, the German pulls out of his dive and circles around to strafe your unit again. "Stretcher bearer!" The cry goes up almost immediately. You look over at Morgan, and he just looks back, expectantly, waiting for you to decide whether it's safe enough to rush out in the open while an enemy fighter is strafing the area. "I'm just the Conchi," reminds you. You've got Morgan looking at you, the Fokker on the hunt for easy targets, and the cries for help from your comrades. What's it going to be? Are you going to rush out while the wolf is still on the prowl? Yes, it's my duty. No, let's wait for the Fokker to leave. God damn it. Oh, god damn it. This could be an easy end to our Let's Play. Do we or do we not go there? Yes, we have to. Let's get on with it, you say, and even as you're speaking, you put your hand over your helmet and race up towards the sound of the shooting. You're risking your life to answer the call for help. The Fokker pilot sees you instantly. Lucky for you, however, he's a bad shot. He sends a few bursts of machine gun fire flying wildly over your head before tossing a small bomb your way that explodes only a dozen feet to your right but manages not to hit anyone. Then, his efforts to kill British stretcher bearers in vain, he increases attitude and flies away. Having avoided a German who was specifically trying to kill you, you jump into your destination, which is a crater holding a handful of anxious-looking soldiers crouched down beside a queerly wounded officer. The officer is bleeding from at least 2 separate wounds. A shell burst seems to have knocked him about, and from the looks of his right foot is already off his leg. He's awake, however, and has watched you risk life and limb to get to him. You're carrying with you the first aid packet that will save his life. Splendid work in the face of enemy fire, the wounded officer says. Splendid. Then he winces in pain and instinctively clutches at his leg. And, as he does so, you, for the first time, see the insignia on the shoulder of the officer's plainfield jacket. It's a crown above 2 stars. He's a colonel. You've saved a very senior officer indeed, and earned an honor for doing so. Really? Oh yes, honors too. Nice. They're giving you a medal. It's your captain speaking. He and MacGuffin have sauntered over to give you the good news. Apparently, that colonel you and Morgan saved, the captain continues, was in the mood to put on a show for the men. Says that watching you race through hostile enemy fire was an inspiration for the entire army. It means there's a DCM in it for you. Congratulations, Calvin. A DCM is a Distinguished Conduct Medal. It's hardly the most prestigious British award for gallantry. That would be Victoria Cross. But it's a far exceptional honor nonetheless, particularly for an enlisted man, and something to be immensely proud of. Everyone knows what the Free Bandit Crimson, Dark Blue, and Crimson Ribbon represents. A couple thoughts immediately go through your mind, and the captain and MacGuffin are clearly waiting for you to say something brief. What's it going to be? Thank you, sir, it's an honor. Or, so we only get medals for saving officers? What about the men? Is Morgan getting one too? He was right there with me. Or, take your medal and shove it up your ass. I think I'm gonna ask about Morgan too. Oh no. Fuck. Well, I missed one. So there's nothing I can do. God damn it. The rest of the day is slow by comparison. You spend it assisting a nearby battalion as it moves east towards the village of Guillemont, a locale near Froneswood that has so far defied repeated British attacks to capture it. The battalion is marching through your sector of the front, and everybody needs to lie low so as not to attract any unwanted German attention. After an extraordinarily long time, the regiment finally gets past you. Indeed, it's close to nightfall by the time your trench is fully back on your own hands. You're just starting to think about catching a few minutes sleep when B Company captain finds you. Go get some shut-eye, he says. We're going to have another show, and you stretcher barrels need to rest up. Long day ahead of you. Don't have to tell me twice, sir, you respond, and off you go. To your slight surprise, you find B Company's stretcher barrels all together, talking with MacGuffin. He slaps you on the back and leads you to the best sleeping nook in the area. Our treat, he says to B Company's only Distinguished Conduct Medal recipient. Then he and the others whisper a quick, "For he is a jolly good fellow," before everyone mimes, "Hip hip hooray!" There's war on, after all, so you have to be quiet. Then Morgan speaks up. "I'm happy for you, Calvin. It's good to see you accomplish something that doesn't involve killing people. For whatever reason, this seems to be all MacGuffin can bear. He's always turned up his nose at your Irish colleague, of course, for reasons made perfectly clear to you, but now he finally brings his guns to bear. I've just had about enough of you," he says angrily to Morgan. "Your place is to be seen, not heard." Morgan, rising to the challenge, widens his eyes and licks his lips. "Spoken like a true imperialist," he retorts. "Treat us all like children. You'd never have it any other way, would you?" From here the conversation takes on a life of its own. With MacGuffin's sentiments laid bare, Morgan finally feels free to explain himself as well. He starts to talk about the Easter Rising. You vaguely remember this incident from around the time you sailed for France, where a motley collection of Irish terrorists seized some buildings in and around Dublin and had to be rooted out by force. Oh, I remember reading about this one as well. It had been a brief but bloody affair. It ended with British orders' inevitable triumph over Irish hooligans and, as far as you were concerned, was now history. Morgan, it turns out, saw the matter altogether differently. He was in Dublin when it happened, saw people being killed firsthand, and came out of the conflict with a hardened antipathy towards both imperialism and violence. What right, he asks MacGuffin, does the King of England have to tell somebody in Ireland, India or Africa how to live his life? Do these subjects get a vote? Where does Westminster get off making choices for men in Delhi, Durban or even Dublin? Because they let us, answers MacGuffin. It is our duty as Englishmen, as men at the zenith of civilization, to aid those less fortunate in scaling to something of a similar height. A few terrorists don't get to change that. We don't let terrorists govern our lives. Morgan scoffs at this. No one's letting you do anything if you have to use force. And how exactly are you helping your subjects by sending them to be slaughtered on some field in northern France? How does that return the favor? Because this war is a conflict between good and evil, MacGuffin answers quickly. Like most English officers, he is confident of his view of the world and at peace with his place in it. Good and evil know no national boundaries. It's why the Canadians, South Africans and Anzacs are here, despite being literally from half a world away. Evil does not go away simply because one refuses to fight it. MacGuffin is speaking as much about conscientious objectors as about His Majesty's policies towards the nations where he is their sovereign. Morgan pushes back. The Germans aren't any more evil than we are. They're fighting you lot for the same reason you're fighting them. It's all just one big self-fulfilling and self-perpetuating foolishness between equal and noxious imperial powers. Makes no difference to most of us whether our absentee landlords are in London or Berlin or Paris. People think that because I refuse to fight for the King of England, that I'm somehow sympathetic to the German side. Rubbish! I just think, no, I know, that both sides are the same. The world cannot survive another war such as this one. I promise you, 20 years from now, the Germans will be lamenting this war the same as you. Those men are good and bad, human and inhuman, just like you and me. I'm nothing like you, MacGuffin snaps back. Morgan looks at you. What do you think, Calvin? Oh God, please don't pull me into this. I don't know what the two of you are talking about. I agree with MacGuffin, our side is right. Or I agree with Morgan, this war is self-perpetuating and pointless. Oh God. I actually think that I would agree with MacGuffin, our side is right. I'm sorry Morgan, you say, but I have to agree with our lieutenant here. Nothing personal. It can't be denied that English rule is always superior. That's what Mr. MacGuffin is talking about. Let me tell you what I'm talking about, Morgan says. He talks about the large number of Irish volunteers who have willingly gone off to war. There are thousands of Irishmen fighting for you, he says pointedly to MacGuffin, and it's true. Don't you forget it. But conscription changes everything. It's tyranny for an imperial overlord to draft your men to fight a war they don't have a say in waging. Then he circles back to the Easter Rising and how the British army quickly and violently put it down. After the fighting ended, the British troops were enraged. They killed everyone they could get their hands on, Morgan explains, even people who had nothing to do with it. The South Staffordshire Regiment's 2nd Battalion took heavy casualties on North King Street, and some of their men took it out on the first civilians they could find, including my wife's brother. Just ran him through with a bayonet, even though he'd done nothing wrong. How's that any different from what the Germans did in Belgium? Then why are you here, MacGuffin interjects. Why aren't you taking up arms against us? Why aren't you fighting to avenge your loss? Morgan gets agitated. Because my brother-in-law is dead, for nothing. His Irish accent has suddenly exploded. Run through with a bayonet for nothing, and now his widow and 3 kids are left to their lonesome. Then Morgan sits back and takes a deep breath before speaking again. His accent has gone. Violence, you see, only begets violence. Those men who started the Easter Rising accomplished nothing besides getting themselves and a lot of others people killed. Yes, I suppose I could take up arms against the South Staffordshire to avenge my brother-in-law, but what would be the point? They're here at the Somme fighting in this muck, and killing some helpless Tommy on theirs won't bring my wife's brother back. It will only take some other's wife's men away. So in a sense, I agree with our good Lieutenant MacGuffin here. Yes, the civilized world needs to act. I simply think we should act a different way. Sending more and more men to the front merely means more and more men get killed, like trying to out-hate your opponent. It will never end. Our violence doesn't end this problem, it causes it. MacGuffin starts to respond, but Morgan continues. Look, it's hard to explain to an Englishman, perhaps, who is accustomed to telling others what to do. As an Irishman, I understand my role in all of this. If more men reacted to war the way I do, perhaps they'd be less war? Spoken like a true colonial, MacGuffin sneers back, echoing Morgan's earlier words. Empires are not built by wishful thinking and goodwill. That only matters, says Morgan, if you're trying to forge an empire. And with that, you all call it a night. So far, you've managed to survive 46 days of the Battle of the Somme. Congratulations for making it this far, and good luck in the weeks and months to come. The next battle began on July 1st, but doesn't end until November.